Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Laps Down podcast. My name is Andrea.
And I'm MJ.
And we are so excited to be kicking off episode 3. Can you believe we made it to 3 episodes? What is your over under on how long this goes on for?
I think at least 4.
Yeah, because you bought a mic, so we have to do at least 4 episodes.
At least 4.
Well, we have a packed agenda today. And you might be thinking, why do you have a packed agenda? There's literally nothing going on. And to that, I have to say, are you still not watching NASCAR? Literally, are you still not watching NASCAR? Because there is stuff going on. It is so exciting. It is so riveting. You have to be watching NASCAR, please. Thoughts, MJ?
I agree. You should be watching NASCAR. We were just at the Roval. We just completed the Roval about 42 minutes ago. We were there in spirit. I felt like I was there.
My spirit was at the Roval, That's my ghost noise, by the way, for my audio listeners. That's a ghost noise. And I was doing a ghost motion with my hands.
I was going to say, I don't think the visual watchers got anything different than what the audio did.
Yeah, everybody's generally confused. But we'll start off by talking about some NASCAR stuff. We have some IndyCar stuff. And we even have some F1 stuff. And then we also have a little Petit Le Man.
Petit Le Man.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that later. Even a little Formula E. Wow, we're all over the place today. There's not a thing happening in motorsport that MJ and Andrea are not covering. So we recorded last week before Talladega happened. That was my fault. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I know you guys wanted our pertinent thoughts on Talladega. We were not there when you needed us most. What were our thoughts on Talladega just before we get to the Roval?
It was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a boring race, but it was pretty uneventful until we got to the end. And then we did have the largest big one. Crazy thing to call it.
28 cars.
28 cars. Which
that's a lot of cars.
Completely altered the playoffs.
Yeah. And it also, I think, messed with the mental sanity of most of the drivers because, we got to talk about the damaged vehicle policy. What's going on there, MJ?
The best part about NASCAR, let me start my little tangent before I get into explaining the damaged vehicle policy, is NASCAR just does not tell anyone anything. It takes me forever to find out literally anything. I was 6 articles deep before I could figure out what the damaged vehicle policy was before they changed it, which is kind of the issue. But so the damaged vehicle policy is basically what NASCAR uses to ensure that you're not going back on the track with a car that is unsafe to drive for you or for other people. Makes sense, right? Everyone's on the same page. The issue was, previously before Talladega, if your car needed to be towed after sustaining damage, if it needed to be towed for whatever reason, your race was over. Makes sense. Everyone's following along. Sounds good. And so we saw this with Josh Berry, who spun out lap 1 in Kansas. He had no damage, but he had 4 flat tires, essentially. And they're like, so sorry, we know technically we could repair you, but that's the rule. That is the rule we have. So that is the rule we will enforce. Once again, makes total sense. I mean, the rule doesn't make sense, but enforcing the rule that you have makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But then at Talladega, after we had our 28 car big one, the rule just kind of changed out of nowhere. No one was really told anything.
Right.
And so there were a couple cars, Chase Briscoe, and then Chase Elliott. There were other cars too, but they essentially had repairable cars, but they were not able to drive themselves back to the pits, which is exactly the same situation that Josh Berry was in the weekend before. But NASCAR decided to tow him, gave him I think it's 7 minutes as soon as you hit your pit stall to repair the car and get back on the field. But the controversy came with the fact that NASCAR announced this rule after Talladega.
Yeah.
After the race, they came out and they said, well, we actually decided prior to this race, without telling anybody, that
we decided in our head.
Yeah. Precisely what they did. They said, oh, we decided in this little secret rule book that we have sitting up here, and we just thought that you guys all got the memo, but we decided that we were going to err on the side of the drivers and the cars versus the rule that we have had since 2017, which is
I think that, like, the saying that, like, well, we decided to err on the side of the drivers, like, we just wanted some racing, that is, like, what I think they believed to be a get-out-of-jail-free card, because, like, as a fan, you think, like, oh yeah, I want to do what's best for the drivers to keep on racing, too. That seems like such a good idea. But it's, like, you don't get to, as Danny Hamlin so kindly said on his podcast, you don't get to change your mind about that sort of thing halfway through playoffs. That's insane.
And the new rule makes sense. Like, obviously, if the car can continue to drive, if it needs a little help getting back to the pit box, if it needs a little scooch, a little pull, that makes sense. It is simply the fact that they are changing this before the third race, the final race in the round of 16. That's what's, like, absolutely baffling. And I would be livid if I were a driver, especially if I was Josh Berry, who lost out on, like, 30 points the weekend before.
Yeah, no, and that's what I think is, like, just so LOL about it, is that they're just like, we just kind of, like, thought about it and then changed the rules in our own noggins because we wanted to. Essentially, we wanted to. Yeah, no other rhyme or reason. We could have waited until, like, the end of the season to change the rule, but we didn't. Because we do what we want. Of the round.
Yeah. They did announce, though, that they had a meeting this Thursday before the Roval where they finalized this and they, like, announced it and they finally told the teams. So I guess that's what we're going with now until they reevaluate it at the end of the season. But baffling that they were just like, hey, actually, we're going to fix this issue and we're not going to tell anybody about it.
Okay, so you mentioned the Roval. Do we want to just get into the Roval?
Let's just jump right into the Roval.
First of all, have to say, biggest loves to just the word Roval. Love it. I could say it 100 times over. I think we need more Rovals just for simply the fact that we are now doing a podcast and I want a podcast about Rovals all the time. So I can say Rovals into a microphone. Hope you guys are loving hearing us say Rovals. Go ahead, MJ. Give it a couple good goes. Give it a couple goes, girl.
I do adore the Roval. It has everything that I want. It's a road course inside of an oval. Two of my favorite formats of tracks. Road courses and ovals.
I think that somebody brought up a great point in the comments of your TikTok that it is probably optimal for viewing as well. So I think I decided in my own head, much like NASCAR does things, that we should go to a Roval for our first NASCAR race. Wouldn't that be so fun? We should go to a Roval.
Absolutely down. Absolutely down. But my favorite part about, like, I've only been to oval races in person. And the best part about them is you can see the whole track from where you're sitting. It's not like, oh, I only see turn 7. I only see a quarter of turn 1. You see the whole track. And then they Roval it. They put a road course inside of your oval. You're seeing the whole road course. NASCAR has it figured out. IMS has it figured out. We love a Roval. And that's its government name. It is called the Charlotte Roval, in case you're wondering. We didn't make that up. I think someone in my comments thought I made that up. I did not make that up. Would love to.
MJ's a very creative gal, but I don't think that she has it in her to come up with such a word like Roval. It's kind of a once in a lifetime sort of word that you would come up with. But at the beginning of our Roval experience this weekend, we were talking about the curbs, the crazy looking curbs that they put in. And then, from my understanding, they overnight changed it because the drivers were complaining. That might be incorrect. And MJ just made a face of, like, she didn't prepare to fact check me on that. So we're going to run with that. All I have to say, though, is that, like, I could be persuaded differently. If somebody wants to give us some feedback on our Instagram or TikTok or why I'm wrong on this, I kind of want the cars to get their shit wrecked if they go completely out of bounds, off track, off limits. Like, that's the point of the curbs, right? So, like, why would we be upset about that happening? I mean, the drivers were like, it's really hard when I drive over the curb. It's like, well, then
don't drive over the curb.
You're not supposed to drive there.
To be fair, I do think every car, well, not every car, most of the cars that drove over the curb sustained enough damage that they didn't finish. But I mean, like, Bubba Wallace, he took the curb.
That dude cut a total corner. I think he got a penalty for it because they were like he didn't like wreck his shit enough, and he like totally cut this corner. So like we'll have to give him a penalty now. I love that, but it was kind of entertaining to watch. There was a lot of people getting spun around and just accidentally ruining everybody's life behind them. Yeah. Some of those were like fine by me. I didn't care. Some of them I took very personally. First of all, being Tyler Reddick. I mean, he was minding his own business. He was doing his own thing. He was above the playoff cutoff line. He was having a great old time. And then all of a sudden, shit was hitting the fan and things were dire and desperate. He, of course, had like a massive comeback, and he, I think, did amazing.
Amazing recovery.
I don't know. I mean, who for you didn't SVG have like somebody kind of wreck his life a little bit by spinning out in front of him?
I think, either someone spun out in front of him or he spun, because it's that turn number 7 that they just repaved this year. Yeah. So that it's like a hairpin, and it's like not super duper NASCAR car friendly, but I think that's kind of what the appeal is. That turn, whether you agree with it or not, was created for chaos.
And it did its job, baby. It did its job.
Truly did. But the issue was, well, I guess maybe it wasn't an issue. It was always the drivers who were kind of driving for nothing taking out the drivers who were driving for something, like, i.e. Tyler Reddick.
Like, literally, like, just like, what the hell is happening? And, like, I feel so bad that he had to hustle but he did end up making it above that cutoff line. So I'm going to stop complaining. Good for him. Shout out for him. But I do think that we have some folks to mourn today that did not make it above that line. Do we want to just go down the list and talk about them?
Absolutely. Let's start with the one who Tyler Reddick personally got rid of was Joey Logano. Team Penske.
Okay, I like Joey Logano. I hope that's okay. If you guys are listening and you don't like Joey Logano, it's okay. I can be swayed. You could convince me otherwise. But I for the moment, I like Joey Logano. I was totally fine sacrificing him for Tyler Reddick. I literally texted you and I was like, bye, Joey.
Yeah.
Your time is done.
You were ready to sacrifice a few people for Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I gave you a list.
Yeah.
Yes,
you did.
We'll keep that in the drafts. Maybe someday. I mean, like, I like Logano, but, like, he was not killing it today by any means. Like, he was not driving like a hero, and he needed to drive like a hero.
I'm not worried about him. I know next year he'll be fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. And then we had
who's next?
Austin Cindric, who is also Team Penske. I feel so indifferent about Austin Cindric. Like, alarmingly indifferent. Like, I respect him. I like his glasses. He's a good driver. But, like...
Yeah. The glasses are nice. I think it's like, you know what? You made it a good run, buddy. You have something to be proud of. Hang your hat on. So happy for you. Yes. So cool. But it was your time. Bye. I'm so sorry.
And then we had Daniel Suarez, Trackhouse Racing. I love Daniel Suarez. I love
him too, but MJ,
that man.
There was nothing going right for him.
It's not about his talent.
This is not about 2 weekends in a row now. This is 2 weekends in a row now where I'm like, buddy, what are we up to over here? What is going on?
He's kind of crazy. He's kind of silly on the track.
Yeah, but he probably gets it from all the family dinners with Max.
They're swapping stories, and he's like, oh, I should try that. And I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of many issues, but I love him.
So many issues. I mean, some of it is bad luck that he has. For sure. I think some of it is not his fault. I think, like, his goof in Talladega was all his fault.
That was 100% his fault. Yeah.
Today, I think it was like a solid 50-50. Like, there was some things where I was like, what are we thinking up here? What's going up in that noggin, buddy? But then there's other things where I was like, no, Daniel, so sorry for you, bud. He's got a good mixed bag. I think that this season was not his season.
No, he'll come back. I know he'll come back next year. He's going to win it all next year or something.
Oh, God. She has transferred all delusions from F1 to NASCAR. These are the same things I used to hear from her about F1.
Yeah, correct.
This isn't Logan Sargent's race. The next one is.
Daniel Suarez is my Logan Sargent, and if you have any comment on that, keep it to yourself. All right, moving on.
Okay,
Next.
lastly is new dad whose children, according to the commentators, basically cursed him. Okay, just for a little context, if you didn't watch, the commentators for no reason were like, Briscoe, no, so sorry for you, bud. Bad luck. Congrats on the twins, though. It's probably for the best you're not in the playoffs. You're a dad now.
Yeah, they did. Every time they talked about him and his bad luck, they were always like, well, he had good luck earlier in this week. He welcomed in a new pair of beautiful twins. And they're like, yeah. It looks like his race is over. I'm like, oh my God,
said,
chill.
At one point they said, yeah, he's probably got a lot on his mind considering he has 2 new kids that he welcomed in this week.
Crazy.
And then it like literally cut to like a picture of the twins. I'm like, a lot on his mind? Are you blaming the children?
Oh my God. I don't know if we said this is Chase Briscoe. Did we say that? This is Chase Briscoe.
I said Briscoe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Briscoe, as in of the Chase variety.
Of the Chase, one of the many Chases on the field.
Yeah, normally we would say the Chase of the Briscoe variety, but this time we'll spice it up a little bit. It's actually a Briscoe of the Chase variety. Yeah, there is too many Chases. What are we going to do about that? Some of you guys got to change your name. Sorry. So those 4 drivers are out. For our new NASCAR fans, that doesn't mean they're done racing. They're still going to be there. They're just not going to win the big ol' thing. You know what I mean? Not going to win the whole title. They can still win races, though. So don't be too sad if you're one of these. If you listen to MJ enough, Suarez will probably win the rest of them for the rest of the season. So
absolutely.
Hope is still there, everyone. Yeah, I'm a little sad about Logano, but I think it was a necessary sacrifice to make when they were like, one of these guys is going to go. It's going to either be Reddick or Logano. And I was like, that's an easy choice. So yeah, I think that's everything we have for NASCAR. Do we want to talk IndyCar?
Let's talk IndyCar. Also big news. I texted you this while we were watching NASCAR. I don't watch Sunday Night Football, but apparently there was a whole advertisement, a prime time advertisement about the IndyCar race in Arlington that was announced earlier this week on primetime.
Well, that race is not happening until 26, right?
Correct.
We're doing some early advertising for this, but yes. I love the energy. I'm not going to complain.
They did also talk about the Indy 500 next year, so I think they were like, the Indy 500, and also keep your eyes out. In a hot minute, we're coming back.
Have you ever heard of the Indy 500? It's so fun. They actually do other things.
They do more races than just the Indy 500, which I think is the first step IndyCar needs to do to get new fans in the door, is tell them that it exists, personally.
Yeah. So that was fun. So yeah, if you haven't heard, they're doing a race in 2026 in Arlington, Texas, not Arlington, Virginia. That would have been really convenient if it was in Arlington, Virginia. But it's actually like kind of just around the football stadium. So like they did like a little cutesy thing with like the Cowboys and stuff. They're really playing into it, and they did like a full like announcement ceremony with Newgarden and
Alex Palou.
Alex Palou. I love that man. I don't know why I just blanked on his name. I'm so sorry, Alex. It's just I haven't seen you guys on my TV for a couple weekends. And yeah, it was really cute. I think that this race will be really cool. I saw like the little mock-up picture that they had where they had like a little like walkway like over the track, and I was like, what kind of VIP you gotta be to sit there? That's the kind of VIP I want to be.
Maybe one day. That is not in my tax bracket, personally.
Well, how much could an IndyCar ticket be, huh? 25 cents?
$1.50? $1.50 with inflation? I don't know. You $2? IndyCar costs $2? What is this, the 500?
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see. I think that that'll be really fun. And I'd love to see anything exciting happening in the IndyCar front. We also had a new signing in IndyCar.
Yes, and this one is particularly exciting because I did not think he was going to get a seat, especially with the way that he was talking. But Louis Foster, who is the reigning IndyNXT, and IndyNXT, if you're not tuned into IndyCar, IndyNXT is like the next step down in the feeder series to IndyCar. But he won this year with Andretti, dominated the season, and then when we got to the end of the year, he was kind of like, I don't know. I don't really have anywhere to go. I can't really buy a seat. But he was announced this week to be driving next season, and I believe it was a multi-year deal with Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Don't know what car he's driving, either the 45 or the 30, but we know he's driving, and that's kind of all that matters. And it's a big deal because it proves that the feeder series is actually worth something, which huge deal.
Not all motorsport series can say that. So
correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at you, F2, whatever the hell you are, okay? But yeah, no, that's really cool. I think that I love seeing these IndyCar announcements. I'm still a little nervous about some people. I'm not sure what is going on with some folks, but it's cool to see another seat filled. Speaking of, what's going on in IndyCar, testing, what happened there?
So they tested earlier this week at IMS. They're kind of still trying to figure out the hybrid situation. Don't know if you've heard about the hybrid situation, but they were tossed into the cars middle of the season. A few issues, mostly with Colton Herta, but that's none of my business.
Yeah, the issues centered around people that, for some reason, their lives just got wrecked.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Colton Herta. Hope you're doing well.
Sorry about but okay.
Yeah, sorry about the hybrid. But, they were testing earlier this week, and I think a few exciting little pieces of maybe gossip, maybe foreshadowing. We did have a driver, Rinus BK, driving the number 18 Dale Coyne car, which currently does not have a driver, and coincidentally, Rinus doesn't have a seat. And he went third fastest in a Dale Coyne car. He went third fastest in a Dale Coyne car. There was an Andretti out there. There was an Arrow McLaren out there. And Rinus VK went third fastest in a Dale Coyne car? Curious.
Good for him.
Curious about that. Yeah, pop off. But I guess we're just going to have to kind of... Who knows when they're going to announce their signings? They always wait to the last minute, but definitely something to keep an eye out for.
So, for the people that have already signed with other teams, was the testing the first opportunity that we got to see them in that situation?
Yeah. So, we had Alexander Rossi was driving the number 20 for Ed Carpenter. I think Christian Lundgaard was out there in the Arrow McLaren. And then we had, Elio Castroneves and who else? Hold, please. Oh, and Ryan Hunter-Reay. They were both driving the cars that they're going to drive, presumably, at the Indy 500. So
I think that Ryan Hunter-Reay is a name that's right up there with Logan Sargent for me, where I'm just like, was this created in an American AI generator?
Absolutely. And then Stingray Robb, too. The Holy Trinity. Yeah. Those are race car driver names.
The Holy Trinity of race car American driver names. Wow.
Unemployed.
What a name. What a name. And that's also very chic these days to be unemployed. I've heard that. Wish every day I was. That's not true. Don't fire me, please. My job. I just want to be unemployed, in the way of I have money, but I don't have to go to work. Like an IndyCar driver.
There you go. There you go.
So that is, I think, everything on the IndyCar tee. I'm getting a little antsy. I want things to happen in IndyCar, and it's going to be so long until they do.
Yeah, there's 138 days until we're... That's a long time. That's a lot of days.
I literally can't do this anymore. Yeah, I miss you, IndyCar. Come back, girl. But I'm very excited for next year, and it was cool to see people out there in their new teams. I'm curious to see what happens with the rest of the open seats, and we're also making our plans for next year. We'll be out there in the IndyCar world next year. Me and MJ have decided, not exactly where, but out there. Put a notice out. MJ and Andrea coming to a town near you. Be afraid.
I thought you were going to say we're actually going to be testing the hybrids soon.
Oh.
I thought that's where you were.
Yeah. Well, we can go that way if you want. Hey guys, it's Andrea. I actually am testing the hybrids next week. They didn't want to tell anybody because they thought everybody else would get jealous, but I'm out there. So anyways, we're probably going to cut all that. That wasn't very funny.
Now I think you should leave that in.
Oh, God. It's so hard podcasting, guys. Okay.
So
Guys, I hate to be one to complain, but podcasting is so hard. Well, I've been extremely bored with IndyCar, but we do have F1 coming back to us next weekend. I really couldn't be more grateful. I have been gnawing at the bars of my freaking enclosure because I want to watch F1 so bad, and whoever cursed this calendar upon us, I hope you pay for your crimes in the highest court of law. But we're back in the United States. What are your thoughts, MJ? Are you excited? Are you going to be tuning in?
I will be tuning in.
I don't hear any excitement.
I'm excited. I don't know. I'm just interested to see how it goes.
Next episode, we're going to have to make you do a yeehaw. I won't make you do it now, but we'll save it for later. Tune in next week, guys, if you want to hear me force MJ to say yeehaw.
That's just, it's not going to happen.
Maybe. Tune in to find out. It is going to be Liam's. I'm considering this like Liam's first official race because I feel like last season, yes, he was racing, but like we always knew there was going to be like an end date to the racing. I feel like this is like his first season, first time like coming in being like, this is my seat. Like I'm not filling in for anybody. I feel like some people might argue that it's not his first race day weekend, but I kind of feel like it is. It's probably a different pressure. He has a contract now.
He actually has a contract. Yeah. He's not a reserve driver. It's like, no, you're actually the guy now.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a lot of talk about Red Bull is trying to size up what they're going to do for next year. So I feel like it's actually a different kind of pressure than like coming in, you're filling in for somebody because you're the reserve driver and they're injured. But like he didn't have any expectations. They were like, just do your best. You know what I mean? Now it's like you have to do actually really freaking good. In fact, you might even have to beat Yuki Tsunoda in order for us to feel like we did the right thing here.
I'm big Yuki fan. Good luck. Yeah. He's also starting, is this correct, with a 10-place grid penalty because of...
Correct.
Because of engine change?
Engine changes, yes. Correct.
Very IndyCar.
So true. It's so in right now to have 10 grid penalties for engine changes. Real. It's like so all the rave. But yeah, I think like Yuki should just probably run him off the road. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. LOL. But yeah, I think like Yuki is also aware of like, okay, if Liam beats me, he probably gets the first go at the Red Bull seat whenever they inevitably fire Checo. Whereas I guess if he continues to be the best driver, it continues to make it so they have no choice but to give him the Red Bull seat, even though people will argue till they're blue in the face that that'll never happen. I think at this point, Red Bull's pretty strapped for options. So Yuki's probably aware of this pressure as well and is feeling it. Who do you got between the two of them?
Between Yuki, Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson? For the Red Bull seat?
If Checo's a goner.
I don't think they're going to promote Yuki. I really don't. Unless Liam does, like, he comes at the gates, he's pulling a Logan Sargent, he's like, I'm sticking to the back forever. If he does really poorly,
would be super surprising.
Exactly.
Although, like, this car does suck. Part of me thinks, what if there is a chance that Liam doesn't do well? Because the car sucks.
It's possible. But I think we're going to have to wait. We're not going to know unless he does something like a crazy recovery drive from a 10-place grid penalty at Coda, which would be incredibly entertaining. But we're not going to really know until Mexico, unless he has another grid penalty. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I would love for them to promote Yuki. I think Yuki deserves it. And drives like he deserves
I think it's
it.
because they keep saying like, oh, it's never gonna happen. That makes me want it to happen so much more, because I'm like, he literally is the second best driver that Red Bull has got at the moment.
Right.
What is your issue? What is wrong with you guys? So that kind of just makes me want it more for him. But I also love Liam. I think that it'll be some fun competition between the two of them. But part of me does think like we need to manage expectations a little bit. He has way more pressure on him and a way worse car, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to be giving us the performances that we saw when he filled in last year, in my opinion.
I think that's probably a fair assessment. I will say though, best case scenario, like showing up first week on the job, like needing to impress people, but like having this like cushion of being like, well, I've got a 10th place grid penalty. Yeah. Like honestly, the dream. That's kind of, he really lucked out. Like, he didn't luck out with that one, but he has a little bit more of a grace period now.
I'm kind of, like, excited because who knows, maybe we'll have another Franco Colapinto in our hands that'll just make the decision all the harder for Red Bull, and they'll be like, we have no choice but to, like, consider our options here. Liam's so good, we have to move him up. Sorry, Checo, you're a goner. Not that I want Checo to be a goner, necessarily. I just, like, don't think right now he deserves the seat. So that would be really juicy to see. I'm super bummed about the rookie race being canceled while we're talking about the Franco Colapinto and the Liam Lawson of it all. I told you this the other day. I didn't even register in my brain until I was listening to Off Track that like we could have seen like Pato in the rookie race in the McLaren. We could have seen probably Ollie Behrman would have still raced for Ferrari. We could have maybe seen some other like juicy, new talent. The Hajar from F2 for Red Bull could have been really cool. Like, it would have been so freaking fun. And you know what? FIA, F1, whichever one of you guys made this decision, count your days. That would have been so effing fun. Why would you take that away from me? Hopefully they do it next year. It would be fun to see Pato. I want to see Pato like rip around in a McLaren. Like, for real. Not just like an FP1.
Me too. I bet they'll do it next year. I mean, they've built the hype for it. It would be stupid of them not to do it next year, but I think that's exactly why they would end up not doing it, just because they're them. But I don't know. I think it'd be a good deal. But then I do kind of wonder about like the logistics. Would they drive one of the? They would drive one of the cars.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like. I think it's like a Kimi Antonelli. Like if you fucking bin it into a wall, you just bin George Russell's car into a wall.
Which is, okay, that's hilarious, actually. Actually, I'm even more down for it, now that we've spoken about that. That's funny. Not specifically George Russell, but just the prospect of being
just like, in general.
Hey, bud, are you excited to drive this weekend? I actually just wrecked your car. I'm sorry.
Well, because, like,
I'm new here.
Like, okay, Kimi, like, binning it in FP1 was even crazier because it was like, why would you do that? Like, you weren't even racing anybody. Like, what is your issue? But here, like, they would actually have, like, some competition. Like, I think they would actually wreck the fuck out of these cars.
As they should. As they should. Rovin is racing, and we've got to bring that over to Formula One.
And listen, we've always said that. That would be so funny. So I feel like I'm curious, like, what are you hoping to see out of Coda? I can start if you want and tell you what I'm hoping to see and give you a little inspo.
I think mine's going to make less sense. So let's start with you.
Okay.
End with me.
So I actually want to work through this with you. I am torn because I want Max Verstappen to win the championship. However, I want it to be entertaining. So I know that means I have to like watch a couple Lando wins and a lot of Max losses. Like Max basically can't be getting first at all, or else it won't be as fun to watch towards the end. But I can't do it anymore. I just want to see Max on the top step of the podium. I'm so torn. I don't know what to want. You know what I mean? Is it bad for me to want it to be spicy in Abu Dhabi, like a full 2021, like it comes down to the wire sort of situation? Does that make me a bad person, MJ?
It just makes you human.
Okay. And I also want to see Oscar win a couple times too, but then then that throws points from Lando. So unfortunately, I have to want Lando to win, which, like, I'm sorry to the Lando girlies, is just not in my nature. I'm torn.
So what are you hoping for? What are you going to choose to hope for this weekend so that you can get your spicy ending in Abu Dhabi?
I guess I'm going to hope that Max does bad. I'm sorry, Maxie Poo. It'll be so worth it in the end, babes. Just like hear me out on this one. And also, before the Lando girlies come for me, I am not a Lando hater. I'm just a Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen lover. It is not my fault that he's up against my two of my faves. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want from me? I don't know. But like, I think that we're just gonna have to see Lando run away with it, fucking 30 seconds ahead of everybody in the end, in order for us to get a spicy Abu Dhabi. What do you want? What do you want, MJ?
No,
do you want Logan
question.
Sargent to come back? He comes back just for Coda.
Logan Sargent to come back. Well, apparently freaking Daniel's gonna have a pop-up, so why can't Logan be there? Why can't Logan be there? Oh my god,
did you hear that Daniel was supposed to get the key to the city?
They were gonna give Daniel the key to the city when there was an American on the grid?
There was not an American on the grid.
You're telling me they decided this a week and a half ago? They decided a week and a half ago. They were like, hey, why don't we give a key to the city, a key to this American city, to this Australian dude at the back of the grid when there was an American dude at the back of the grid just a couple weeks prior? I do not believe that. I don't believe that for the sake of Texas, who all of a sudden I'm writing for.
Yeah, MJ's calling fake news. Okay, well, either way, it's awkward. Either way, it's awkward.
Absolutely.
So,
but this weekend, because Haas is bringing their new livery. Look, hear me out. Okay, my ideal podium for this weekend. Are you listening?
I'm scared. Go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna start with a crisp P3. All right, and this one I think is pretty obvious.
I'm never going to feel... Okay, I was really scared we were going to go Nico P1, so this is actually
no.
a much better
This is going to be incredibly realistic, all right? And then, of course... This is going to be... I'm managing my expectation. Wait, I'm not even done yet, first of all. And then, of course, P2, because I do care about the championship. I do. So, obviously, P2 is going to be Oscar Piastri, only because he is going to be...
You're literally saying fuck the championship by doing that.
No. And then, of course, Oscar Piastri is P2 because he gets beaten out at the last second by Checo. P1 brings it home.
All right. I think that's all we got for today, guys. Fucking...
Say what?
Oh
Say
the God.
Truth? Say what I'm predicting? Say what I want? I thought this was a judgment-free podcast.
I never promised that, first of all.
That's a great point.
Okay, well, let us know who you guys want to see on the podium. Apparently, you can just hope for anything.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. All bets are off. You can do whatever you want. So, one last F1 issue. I talked last week extensively about the NASCAR antitrust situation, and I had reference to the F1 Andretti antitrust situation. It is not over, guys. It's not over, okay? I should just get a law degree at this point. An EU Parliament member is apparently calling for an investigation into Liberty Media's acquisition of MotoGP as monopolistic behavior. Nothing specific has come from it yet. I couldn't fully get it because it was like in French, I think, and like I was reading a translated version, and so like I couldn't fully get what they were getting at, but I am interested to be like, okay, so now we got another hit coming their way on antitrust monopolistic sort of things, and I'm pretty sure that like Europe does not mess around with that a lot more than the US does. So I just thought I'd let you guys know we're gonna keep a Laps Down pod full eyes on that, okay, and we'll get you the deets as soon as necessary. But we've got to move on to Petit Le Mans. If you guys don't know what Petit Le Mans is, it was like an endurance race. How long was it? 12 hours? Question mark? Let's Google that. Are we sure?
Hold for noise.
Do 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 do.
10 hours. I was going to be correct.
Okay, 10 hours. So
10
it was
hours.
in Atlanta, right? Atlanta area. Not downtown Atlanta, but like a track near Atlanta.
Road
and
Atlanta.
We saw... Yeah. Are you familiar? Road Atlanta. And we saw some familiar faces. So we can run through them very quickly. MJ, who are you excited to have seen on the top step of the podium at
Scott
Petit
Dixon.
Le Mans?
Petit Le Mans. Scott Dixon brought it home. P1.
Love that.
In the 01, they were in the 01. It was like it was pink for, they were raising money for.
It was raspberry?
I did call it deep raspberry. I did call it that.
Raspberry?
I think they were raising money for breast cancer. At least that's what they were on Instagram. So they brought it home, P1. And then we also saw Colton Herta, who was in the same class, the GTP, I believe. Kyle Kirkwood was also racing. He did not finish. They didn't even get close to finishing.
Did not go well.
No, bless their hearts. We also saw Roman Grosjean, of course, and then James Hinchcliffe, who you may know from a few things. He did drive an IndyCar.
Dancing with the Stars.
Right. Mostly Dancing with the Stars. He is also an F1 announcer and the IndyCar announcer, but he was mostly on Dancing with the Stars.
He did that.
Highly recommend.
He did that F1 TikTok.
Oh yeah, the
the
Gen
sleigh.
Z, slang one in Singapore.
Yeah, so you might know him from everything. You know what I mean? What a guy. Not a guy for winning though. I don't think he won. So
no, he did not.
Womp womp.
He was in a McLaren though, so
we'll give him a pass. Yeah, he's doing best with what he's got, you know. People are gonna think this is a McLaren hate podcast now. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Hey, let's decide to like make jokes about the most popular like team across most motorsports. Let's go ahead and just like shit on them for no reason.
Yeah,
MJ,
we can do that just for one episode. We'll choose someone else next episode.
Tune in. Let us know. Submit requests if you guys want us to shit on somebody in particular. We do take requests.
We are an equal opportunity podcast.
Love that. And one last news point. I don't really have much to say on it other than just like, this is cool. And I really wish I had more detail on what happened, but I don't really know how much detail is out there. Is the Formula E all-women test. That is fucking sick. I'm going to say it. It
is
fucking sick. And you know what? Maybe Formula E could be a pathway for women drivers faster than F1 can get their shit together. I don't care where women are racing. I want to watch them race. So let's make it happen. I will tune into Formula E if that's what the fuck I got to do. But I think it's so sick.
Yeah, earlier this year they did acquire the IP for the W Series.
Correct.
So this news... Yeah, this news kind of builds upon that. I don't know whether they would have like a W Series type format, but there are going to be like, isn't it around 30 female drivers driving in November? Yeah. That's insane. That's huge.
That's so cool. Also, just on like a little side note to, you know, like I do like F1 Academy. I don't think it's like necessarily seen the fruits of the labor yet. I do think with time it will. But if you didn't know, you can only race for 2 years in F1 Academy. So there's obviously been some movement as there's some people that are like on their way out. And one that I thought was really interesting was Chloe Chambers moving to Red Bull for F1 Academy. I think this is really cool. I think that Red Bull actually does a really good job of integrating their driver for their F1 Academy team into like their general driver lineup. Like they include them in a lot of stuff, and I think that is super sick. So shout out Chloe Chambers. I want to hear the United States national anthem on that top step of that podium some more.
Chloe Chambers, she's just the amount of improvement she's had this year with the Haas, put it on the podium. Yeah. She won. She's amazing.
Love her.
Very excited to see her in Red Bull. Very excited for a reason to support Red Bull.
She also submits like highlight clips of her driving with like Chapel Roan songs in the background. I think that's just like funny. Like sometimes I forget like drivers are people too, and they just be like jamming out to Chapel Roan. Like I think that's so sick. So that is it for content. Do you have anything else you want to add before I get into the wrap up?
I don't think so.
Well, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, to submit a review for our podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or we're also on YouTube if you prefer a video format and you just want to put us on in the background on your TV or something. We're there too. I wanted to give a special shout out. We do have some people that have been leaving us reviews on Apple Podcasts. We have one from Teeth. I love Teeth. They've been on our lives a couple times. MJ, are you familiar with Teeth?
Absolutely.
Love Teeth. And also Michael S. love him as well. They both left some written reviews for us on Apple Podcasts. We do read those. They mean a lot to us. If you guys want to leave us feedback on the show, we'll be sure to give you a shout out in future episodes. And if you are not already, go ahead and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at LapsDownPod. And next week, we will be doing a recap of COTA, which I am so excited to do our first official recap on the pod. The last 3 episodes, there's been no F1 going on. And so this will be our first go at that. A lot of other people are doing live podcasts, and they might post a little bit later. So we'll be sure that we get up on Monday so that you guys have something to listen to. And I think that's everything. I think that is gosh darn about everything. So with that, I will go ahead and say goodbye. Say bye, MJ.
Goodbye.
Bye, girlies.